Hello and welcome to Scran, the podcast passionate about the Scottish food and drink scene. I'm your host, Rosalind, and on this episode we chat to two Italian women about their businesses in Scotland. When we set out to record this episode of Scran, we wanted to investigate the impact of Italian food and the businesses associated with it in Scotland. And what we've ended up making was an episode about generations of strong women. My first guest, Giovanna Eusebi, who runs Eusebis Deli in Glasgow, used those exact words to describe her family and business. From her fascination with capers to the touching memories she's helped create around the table, Giovanna shares her passion for Italian food and culture and the story of how her business has been so successful.
I'm a child of immigrants. My mother is Italian. My father sadly passed away 20 years ago, but he was born in Glasgow, real Glasgow man. His parents were both Italian as well, so the DNA's there. It's in the walls, it's in the tables, it's everything that you can see, so yeah.
From Glasgow to Edinburgh and the home and kitchen of Sabrina Damiani, I was treated to the most beautiful and sumptuous afternoon tea I've experienced on this podcast when I met with Sabrina to hear all about her journey from Sicily to Edinburgh via Oxford and a career in academia to now running her own private dining and catering business, Damiani Fine Dining.
She always says that she was cultivating flowers during the winter. So was for us, that were me and my brother, was always spring.
This episode is like a sonic hug, so grab a glass of your favourite Italian tipple and settle in for a listen full of tradition, family, love, and most importantly, food. I'm here at Eusebis Deli in the West End of Glasgow with owner Giovanna, and we're downstairs in the lovely restaurant, having just been upstairs in the deli and getting a coffee and pastry for breakfast. So, hello Giovanna, how are you?
Hi Ros, how are you? Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming back. I know you were on a long time ago in one of our first episodes, so nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's really, really nice to be asked.
Thank you. So we are here in your lovely restaurant, and you guys have been part of the food and drink scene in Glasgow for a really long time. But for anyone that doesn't know, could you just give us a sort of potted history of how your family came to be in Glasgow?
We'll be here to Christmas, but I'll make this short and sweet. My brother and I have been at this location for 10 years, but initially we were in the East End of Glasgow, so I had a small deli and took over from my mum and dad about 25 years ago, trying to remember now. And it was lovely. It was a real deal. It was real food made by real people. There was my mum, my dad, myself, an old Italian auntie, another old Italian lady who was 100 years of age, and some beautiful people who worked with us along the way. So yeah, and I'm a child of immigrants. My mother is Italian. My father sadly passed away 20 years ago, but he was born in Glasgow, real Glasgow man, but his parents were both Italian as well, so the DNA's there. It's in the walls, it's in the tables, it's everything that you can see, so yeah.
Going right back to that kind of start, was it obviously very different for people's appetites of food? Because we're an Italian deli, still are now, but what we see up the stairs we're quite used to, you know, the salads, the pastas, the olive oils, the things. What was it like way back in the start when maybe people weren't so used to that type of cuisine?
I should maybe take you back to my parents. Shettleston Road, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Very difficult to buy olive oil. Peppers were really exotic. Mushrooms were very exotic. This is before the stampede of supermarkets. When they hit our resale landscape, people shop locally. So much more back then. So that produce was really difficult to get. And I think that's why when immigrants come over, they tend to navigate to areas, try and get their food. I mean, at that time you could buy olive oil in a chemist. It was seen as medicinal in Scotland, and that was in the 70s. So think how far we've come since then. But the wee shop in Shettleston, my parents' ethos was really simple. It was just about community, good food, made from scratch every day, lovely produce, salamis, meats, cheeses. I mean, you opened that door and you could be in a hilltop in Rome. It was so devoid. It was sandwiched between a bookies and a boozers. And it just felt so comforting, so different. And people always said that. It was like a wee food hug when you went in there. And there was more people in the kitchen with my dad. He'd have the wee mocha pot on, making him a wee coffee or putting a wee sly grappa in it. So there was a real sense of your best home in that wee shop.
How did it evolve from that with you and your brother to here in the West End?
So I took over the shop 20 years ago, and just with a wee dream, just to make the food of my grandmother, my Nonna Maria, who is my mum's mum in Italy. I was very lucky as a child. I spent so much time with them in the south of Italy. They had a very simple life. It stayed within my heart till this day. Memories of that table. It was my best table. They grew everything biodynamically. They were the original no food waste movement, which was Cucina Povera, because they didn't have very much, but they were very sacrilegious about food. They grew all their own food. They worked with the seasons, and all of that stayed within me. I can pinpoint times of year. So right now it would be, we're in spring, so it would be picking wild asparagus with my grandfather, taking him back to my grandmother with a spindly lute, and she would be making a beautiful frittata with it. I would pick snails with my grandmother when it rained. We would pick beans and dry them out in big sheets on the veranda. So every season has huge memories. Summertime now coming up with my cousins, picking all the tomatoes in the land, washing them outside, bottling them, putting away like 400 bottles of passata. So all of that she's very much here. She's very much part of this story. And I guess Eusebi's really is about generations of strong women, so that I hope people, that comes through when you come here. You feel that.
And do you feel now that people are more aware and appreciate those sort of seasonal dishes as well?
I think we're coming back to it. I think there was a whole revolution of the big supermarkets coming in, fast food. It's still there in the landscape, but I can see a bit of a turn. I can see small farmers markets evolving. People in lockdown may be thinking about food a bit more because it became a real focus for them at that point. What were you going to eat? That was really, that's the first thing my mother says to me every morning. What were you having for dinner? And we're just having coffee for breakfast. So everybody started really focusing in on locality. We had a fish van that came to our street. I had never seen the fish van for the 20 years that I had lived there because I was always working. So then there was queues going up to this fish van, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We would be queued out the door in here because we have a bakery, an off-site bakery, and we have 6 of a team in there who are incredible, who work from 5 a.m. in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. People don't see that side of us. At the point where we couldn't serve food in the restaurant, all we could do was serve coffee and cake, and there were queues down the street. So I think definitely that flipped things a wee bit, and that buying locally, shopping locally, buying daily or every second day, I can see a bit of a change in that.
And to go back to the Italian side of things, what do you think it is about Italian restaurants or delis in Scotland that it's just an everlasting, everyone loves it, everyone loves pizza, pasta? What do you think it is that, like you say, that sort of food hug that's transcend the generation?
I really don't know. I don't know what the secret sauce is to that. I know it's the love story that keeps going, doesn't it? Glasgow, Scotland, just, it's a big Scottish-Italian love story there. If I take you back to my own family, my great-grandmother came here when she was 16, I think 16 years of age, working in a cafe. Her husband had a barber's in Shettleston Road, just a young girl. My own grandmother, Giovanna, who was my dad's mum, they had a cafe in Partick, and they made ice cream. And at the start of the war, my grandfather fought for the Scottish Sutherland Highlanders, I think is the name of the regiment. And she was left with my dad in her arms running this cafe. And I think of all those incredible women who, during the war, working, the men all went away. And I actually remember somebody saying to me that all the women actually got to make what they wanted to make. They got to run the show. It wasn't the men. So all these women were running all these cafes in Glasgow while all their men were away. So I don't know what the secret sauce is. I think Glaswegians just love a bit of good chat. They love sweet stuff, so ice cream and all of that at the time in the 50s and the 60s, fish and chips, all of those things that the Italians were very entrepreneurial because they had to, like I said at the very beginning, we couldn't really get our ingredients when they came here, so they were thinking on their feet, how do we make a living, but I also think they were they became such a big part of the community, such a big part of I'll say Glasgow story, because we're a huge part of that, and we owe a huge debt to Glasgow and the warmth of the people here. I think there's so much similarity between the Scots and Italians.
Yeah, and it's sort of transcended over to Italy as well. There's like that town that's like a mini Scotland.
In Barga.
Yeah.
I've never been actually, but I've heard so much about it. They have a fish and chip festival every year, and everybody, if you just go there, I think everybody speaks Glaswegian or with a slang sort of accent. So yeah, we're sort of loved throughout the world.
How do you sort of maintain your ties with Italy? Do you go there on buying trips for stocking stuff here?
Yeah, I mean, I go as often as I can. I adore the Italian food landscape. It is so different, and that was one thing that was at the top of the page when we started in here. I wanted to show people the differentiation of Italian food from north to south. And the islands is so different. In the north, you've got areas like Piemonte, you've got a climate that's very much like Scotland. They eat a lot of game, big stinky cheeses like Gorgonzola, and then you go all the way to the bottom to Puglia, and you've got this African heat, and you can taste the sunshine, the tomatoes. So I wanted to kind of bring that through the menus and weave it through. I wanted to show people the diversity of Italian food, take them out their comfort zone of what they think Italian food is, but with a Scottish twist on it, obviously. Locality and all of that is so important. Do I go a lot? Yes, I do. I love it. I got some olive oil last year, and I love the fact of just going to somebody and seeing the producer and looking in the whites of the eyes, shaking their hand, and it's really exciting. I still get such a buzz out of that. Last year I went to the Aeolian Islands in Sicily. I went to an island called Lipari, and I went to see capers. I've got a fascination with capers. I went to visit a beautiful place where they pick capers. There's like 100 varieties of capers. Who knew? All of the things, they were actually making candied capers and putting them on ricotta ice cream, caper powder. It's just quite incredible. I bought our plates for a restaurant in Puglia from a beautiful ceramicist called Niccolo Fasano, and he painted a plate while I was sitting there, a caricature of me, and then from there I visited the pottery and everything. So I love that. I love just holding things in my hand. I'm not an internet girl. I don't like buying things off the web. If I can't see it first, if I can't talk to you, if I can't shake your hand, if I can't taste it, which is the most important thing, I'm not putting it on the plate in the restaurant.
When it comes to your menus and seasonality, do you see sort of trends come and go, or are people up for just the same things?
Do you know what? I'm not really into trends. That doesn't dictate who we are here. I have an incredible team here of chefs who've been in a journey with me. Every menu is based around a season. All our menus change seasonally, which is huge. We also have the start of the season, mid-season, and we have the end of the season because produce changes within that. We are inspired by food stories from my family. So, I told you about the wild asparagus. So last week, Maxine, who forages for us, actually got some wild asparagus in, and Seb did a beautiful dish with it. So everything is inspired by the stories, making ricotta cheese, but obviously locality, using Wascale milk to do that. So everything at that table is what inspires our menu, but obviously we have the incredible larder here in Scotland and incredible producers, a network that we have fantastic relationships with, and a brilliant team of chefs, in particular, who take those stories and then modernise them a bit sometimes, or they do something very classic. Trends, no, it's not for me.
And just to go back, you obviously said you're from a family of immigrants. It's just, and no matter what's going on in the world, I feel like food and eating well sort of transcends borders and politics and things. So it's a really nice starting point for people coming somewhere new.
Yeah, I always say that a table doesn't know diversity. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think we could probably solve a lot of the world's problems in war by simply just getting people and feeding them round a table. I'd love to have 5 of the world's leaders in here and just sit with them and feed them and talk to them and give them food, because it nourishes your soul. Yeah, if it comes from a good place, if you do it with good intention, if you do everything with a good heart, people can feel it. They feel the authenticity. That's really, really important. I think tables transcend. So many beautiful things happen at tables. We are so privileged in here. I have witnessed tender moments at tables where, for example, I have an elderly couple who came in, and he recently has dementia. So every moment at that table together they have here every week is so important. It's a huge memory, and I can see that slipping away. I have been privileged to feed people their last meals, and I can feel quite emotional about that as I'm talking about it. So it's a huge privilege to cook. It's not just about feeding someone in the moment. It's a food memory that can carry you well after you have left a place.
Yeah, that's really lovely. We're obviously sitting in late spring, early summer. What are your plans for the next 12 months? Is there anything you can tell us? Or
Yeah, we are constantly evolving in terms of, we have brought someone just now, a chef, who's been with us now for about 5-6 months, who's doing training and development with our whole team, which is great. So I think that just, if we look at the outside world, it can really mess with your head. It can really mess with your head, and I really just shut that out. Obviously it has an impact politically and what's going on, Brexit, all of these things have had huge impacts on costs and everything that we do. But now I'm focusing on what I can control. And what I can control is how you feel when you come here, that moment in time, what we give you, what we feed you, and how we look after our team, how we grow our team, how we nourish our team. And that's something we're really focusing. We focus it on a lot, but we're really, really looking inward at the moment to all of our team, all of our people, and growing them as individuals. So one of them is bringing in people for exceptional training. I think that's so important. We're looking at some new bits of apparatus, so we're looking at beautiful, we've started trialling a grill upstairs, and we're going to go into that in the evenings and at lunchtime as well, going into the summer. It's part of my food memory because my grandmother cooked outside a lot, particularly in the winter as well, so I wanted to bring just an extra bit of flavour into our food profile here of our food. So yeah, we're constantly evolving. Our bakery is constantly evolving. The team are actually, they're just all charging ahead now. They're all further ahead than me now in the game. They're coming up with all the ideas. I think we've given them the story. I give them the story. I give them my heart. We sit together, we talk about it, and they just go away and they're so inspired. We've just sent a couple of chefs to Italy. They were visiting a vineyard, which was great for them. So it's beautiful just to pass that on now.
this might be quite hard, but what are some of your favourite things on the menu or favourite dishes that you cook throughout the year?
I always say that food is not about what you're eating, but who you're eating it with. I think that's really important. There's dishes on that will always stay on the menu that mean something to us. So, for example, something super simple is our healing salad. And the healing salad is based on my food memory of my mum, who twice in her life cancer came knocking at the door. I was in my early teens. I was about 9 the first time, and then I was at university, and I was in my early 20s the second time. And my mum resorted, although she was in Glasgow, resorted back to our childhood in Italy of going into the garden, picking dandelions, sage. The old ways all came back. Purity, simplicity. My mum would never to this day use a packet of supermarket salad. She absolutely detests any packaged food. She says they're pumped full of chemicals. So that salad is just a really simple seasonal leaves. It always sits in the menu. Really, really good olive oil, because that's so important. We put some lovely seeds on it for the bit of omega factor, and that changes out, and some fresh lemon juice on it. So that's a really super simple thing, but it means a lot. Other things are the ethos of making from scratch every day. I love walking into a restaurant. I see the chefs in the kitchen making pasta every day from scratch, and it's the excitement of every season. What's it going to be? Well, just now it's homemade ricotta, because we're in spring, with some beautiful broad beans or some summer truffle when it comes to that time of year. So it's the anticipation of the seasons. It's really beautiful. It's how I like to eat.
And how do you find the process of buying the produce that you need?
I think now it's easier. It definitely is easier. I mean, if I went back to where my parents were, I would say, no, it was super challenging. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if we can't get it, we use something else. We're not going to ship something in from the other end of the world, because that's not going to fit what we do. It's not going to feel right for me, to be honest with you. It has to feel right. I can't sell people a song, and I think I've always, even when I was in a wee shop in Shettleston, and I'd be making the food there for people. We had a wee Imperial machine, and a group of women kneading dough, rolling every day, cooking. I don't think I could give people something that I wouldn't feed my own children.
Well, thank you very much. It's been lovely to see you and chat, and kind of want my lunch now.
So now we're going to eat. So thank you so much. Really, really lovely to be asked, Rosalind. Thank you so much.
I'm here at Sabrina Damiani's home in Edinburgh in your beautiful kitchen, and we have walked into a lovely spread of food. So could you just tell us what we have in front of us?
Yes, we have an afternoon tea, and I prepare some sweet and savory things. So because I usually do with some Italian twist, so it's just a traditional afternoon tea with some Italian. So I have the Italian cannoli that actually are Sicilian, where I'm from. This is like a lemon sponge cake with a pistachio cream, and here there are some lovely sandwiches with salmon, cucumber and mint, and some Parma ham. Then we have, this is one of my favorite actually, this is a tomato, Harlem tomato do you call? With ricotta and pesto and basil. And then we have homemade meringue with chantilly cream and strawberries. And then I made some lemon curd ice cream on the lemon shell.
It's a very nice Monday lunch. This is not what I usually have. So for anyone that doesn't know, could you just tell us a bit about your business?
Yes, I usually organize events for any kind of celebration. So weddings, private dinner, or I work a lot with the Italian and Spanish consulate, and this is what I do actually. I organize a lot of pop-up. This is what I actually do. I am a private chef also for private dining. And during the lockdown, I organize a lot of, and this is how I started, a lot of afternoon tea and breakfast boxes that were quite successful.
You said you're from Sicily, so how did you get into what you do? Has food always been a part of your sort of interest and work life, or is it completely separate until now?
My previous life, you say? Yes, I moved from Sicily because I did a master and then a PhD in Oxford, and then I started to teach. I was teaching Italian literature and philosophy, and then we moved to Madrid where I was still teaching, and then when my husband had an offer from the University of Edinburgh, we decided to move here again. It was the 2013, and I have two young children that were 2 and 3, so I just decided to leave the university for a while because I didn't know anyone here. And then I started to do this, that was my passion, as a proper job. So this is how it started, and I just decided to leave the university forever and to do this as my main job.
And have you always enjoyed cooking?
Yes, yeah. I always enjoyed cooking. When I was at the university, from my first year, I was doing some cake for the main restaurant in Sicily. So I was preparing that. And also when I was in Oxford, I was doing a lot of cooking class in the Four Seasons Hotel with Raymond Blanc. So this has been always my passion. I also organized during my class some lessons about cooking and literature, how the relationship between the cooking and the food and literature. And also food as memory. Through the food, for example, is very nice. You can also understand the characters of some book. So it's always something that I did in my life.
We've got here obviously like an afternoon tea, which is very British, but you've done Italian twist on it. Is that something you've always done? Have you tried to incorporate from where you are a little bit of Italian into what your location?
I think that is nice because of course I started cooking Italian food, but then I travel a lot, so I start also to cook, of course, other kind of food, and also I usually cook with seasonal products. So everything I find, is something. I love now, after traveling a lot in my life, to mix, what is the different cooking and different food, all the place where I've been. So I love to have, for example, like today, a very British afternoon tea, but with some Italian things. So, for example, there will be always some sweet, savory, or sweet desserts, or like a very Italian tart with tomato and basil. So I really love to mix now, and I found very fascinating. For example, when I work with the Italian and Spanish consulate, of course, what they ask is just to do proper Spanish or proper Italian food, and this is what I do. If I have some event or nice celebration, private dining, I just prefer to mix them.
What do you think it is about Italian food specifically that everyone in the UK loves and always has loved?
I think what is really Italian, except, what is pasta and pizza, that, it just... But what is really Italian for me are, for example, the herbs. The herbs are specifically for me. Like when I always, for example, add basil everywhere, or mint, the cheese, the fresh cheese like mozzarella or burrata, they are typically Italian. And people really love to see and to have something that is different from traditionally we found in the past, for example. Italian food is not just pasta alla carbonara or margherita. It's something different, and in something with every region in Italy have a different, cooking. I'm from Sicily, so we use a lot of vegetables and fish, for example. But the north, the cooking from the north and from the south is completely different. So there is not an Italian cooking or an Italian food. Of course, there are something that are in common, but I think that now people is learning how, to choose a proper, nice Italian food. For me, how we mix, for example, the herbs, the spice, the fish, the combination of these is something very, very nice.
And very popular.
And very, very popular. Now it's very, very popular. Also because people love to learn how, we really eat, because all my clients, for example, when I did a cooking class few weeks ago, my clients said, they were 6 and were a lovely family, and they said, but please, we just want to have a cooking class about what we find when we go in Italy, when we go, in a normal restaurant, Italian restaurant everywhere. And so we did really something that you find just when you go in Sicily. And so we did panelle and arancine and all this type of like street food that you cannot find anywhere. And they were absolutely happy about that. And we start to do also cannoli, because unfortunately you find a lot of frozen ones. So to learn how to make, and they are done with Marsala wine, and it is very, very nice.
So growing up, were you encouraged to cook from quite a young age? Was it quite a sort of family type?
I always tell this story that is my real story, is my true story. My grandmother and my mother were a fantastic cook. My grandmother had a beautiful, beautiful house with a terrace. I always tell this story. And this terrace was full of jasmine and lemons, and my grandmother was used to have a lot of friends and family every single Sunday, and it was very nice because I was learning to cook just watching them, so there were a lot of people all around. They were doing fresh sauce pasta, and someone was doing the dessert, and it was very nice. So I was just learning, just watching them. And then there was also, when my grandmother unfortunately passed away, there were my mom with her friends, and they were doing the same. They were cooking every Sunday, every weekend. So I just had this passion from all my family. My mom was a fantastic cook. If I am able to cook, it just thanks to her. She was amazing, really. She was able to do anything. She has this, this ability to transform a single, plate in something amazing. And the art to set a table, the tablescaping, is also thanks to her. We always have flowers in my family. I always use this sentence that now moved me, because unfortunately my mom passed away. Because she always used flowers, in the tablescaping, even if it was just for us as a family. Because she always said this sentence that is something that I really love. My mom had also a lovely garden. This lovely garden had roses and jasmine and these flowers that we call pomelie. She always says that she was cultivating flowers during the winter. So was for us, that were me and my brother, was always spring. So for her, especially when I left, the first day that I arrived, there was a spring on the table. And this is something that I learned through her. This is the reason I love a lot to put flowers everywhere. And I want to transmit this to my daughters too. I think that food is, when you cook, and it's just a sort of gift. And the food is always memory. This is something that I learned from her. It's just always a care about someone. For example, when I was reading, one of my authors was Primo Levi, and he was a survivor of Auschwitz. And he said all the time that was made him survived was, the first one was luck, and the second was just remember how it was to spend the celebration and the festivity with his family, with this beautiful spread of food. For example, when they, when he was at the end, when they were, when they were free, and the first things was always this obsession with food. So there is always, I've been always a relation theme for me in everything I did. Is the fil rouge of my life. This is everything that brings me to cook now.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we eat every day and we don't think about it, but that relationship with food, and it transcends families and politics and boundaries and borders, and you don't think about it when you're eating, but it can bring people together and keep people going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For example, there is a famous, I think the name is Claudia Roden. That is one author. She's a fantastic cook writer. Always she said she's from Egypt, but she moved to London. She traveled a lot. And she said, even if I am in London, if I close my eyes and here it's raining, if I have my tea and I cook something, if I close my eyes, I am in the terrace of my family. Because food and memory are so connected. It is the way in which we eat with our family, the way what we cook is something that always belonged to our past and to our memory. For this reason, I think that also the presentation is also very important, because I think that is a form of art, is a beauty as everything else. For example, this is another memory I have about my mom, because when you travel, of course, and we don't leave you with your family for a long time, then you have this sort of melancholy, for everything is from your country, from your family. I'm happy to be here. I love to stay abroad, but of course I miss a lot my friends, my family, everything. And it was very nice because every time I come back, my mom, not just the spring, whatever, she was doing exactly my favorite thing, my favorite food. So there was always the same things that I really love since I was young. And she was doing the same with my daughters. And this man, you are back to your childhood, to your happiness. And I'm very happy this is the same for my daughters. And they are completely useless to cook. They are not really interested in it. They told me that they don't need. They are able to do a nice table, for sure they are able. They will survive, I think. Every time I prepare a table, I organize the candles and I finish. When I just lit up the candle, for me it's like, I don't know how to say in English, I need to translate it, but it's come andare a teatro. It's like the actors start to, and you can go and everything can start, It's my favorite moment. And then I disappear. But I can do this every single day because I really, really love. I love to see people enjoying what I do. I love to change all the time. So it's really what I really love it.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about the events you do and how people can get in touch if they want to?
They contact me by WhatsApp with my phone number. The website is updating. I'm very active on Instagram, for example, and there is my phone number there or even in my website, so they contact me there. I did a lot of events in the last few years. There are two that are that for me are very important. The first one, but I did more than once. I had the honor, and it was a privilege for me because I was contacted to prepare This was before and also after the lockdown. They contacted me to prepare some afternoon tea boxes for the, at the time was the Duchess of Cornwall, that now is the Queen Camilla. So I organized 3 or 4 times some afternoon tea boxes for her. Apparently they really enjoyed it. Hopefully I didn't poison them. They are still alive. And this was a really big honor for me. Another event that was organized by the Hood magazine was the Chanel pop-up. And this was also very nice because it was I had to organize the all food, the all canopies and sweet nibbles and everything. According to, they gave me the palette of the lipstick. There was the launch of this lipstick in the world, so there were 8 different red. So they asked me if I can prepare something with these different colors. So it was nice because I had to prepare canopies and macarons and dessert with these colors, and it was quite nice. These are the most challenging and the most important, of course. Now, of course, for example, now we have a lot of weddings at the moment. So
as well as the private dining and catering, you also do classes. So can you tell us a bit about them?
Yes, I do cooking class. Usually, yes, Italian cooking class, because this is what people want really to learn. I also sometimes organize some. This I did last year. I didn't repeat this year, but I'm going to do again. I did a course about cooking with flowers. This was very nice because we did like an art focaccia and some nice cookies using edible flowers. This was very nice too. I prefer have just 6 or 8 people when I do the cooking class at home because I think it's the perfect number. I organize a lot of cooking class during Christmas time for canopies, appetizers, and how to set. A lot of people now ask me how to set the table, how to set a proper, nice table. We have a lot of fun. Usually it's so nice, really, because I just remember the last 2 ones were so funny because there were just 6 women. And this is like a sort of therapy. So everyone speaks about everything. And we had such a lot of fun. We had a really lovely day. So I'm going to do it again. It's like, really, it's a therapy. Cooking is very relaxing. So people is very open to speak about everything. They didn't want to go because we had such a lovely time.
Thank you very much. Honestly, I've not seen anything that looks this good, I don't think, ever, especially during the podcast. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tucking in. And I feel like this looks so nice for Instagram, but you're not doing it for that, and that's a really nice reason. You're doing it because this is you've always done this.
So I love to make photos. This is my other passion. So this is the best for me because I cook and then I also do my photos. No, I don't do for Instagram. Of course, I use Instagram. I use for my job. But I love to organize something like that, and I love to make photos. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you so much for this lovely food.
Thank you so much for coming. Just a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks to Giovanna and Sabrina for being my guests on this episode, and thanks to you too for listening. Please remember to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Scran. Scran is co-produced and hosted by me, Rosalind, and co-produced, edited and mixed by Kelly Crichton.